Good morning, agency world.
People. Yeah.
How are you guys?
Good.
It's probably
good. I want to ask the listeners if they're having a good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're listening to
In
this.
the middle of
hopefully
the night.
a good day. Hopefully a good day.
You can listen to this at 2 a.m. and you'll,
Isn't that beautiful?
yes, whenever.
I love the world that we live in today, that we can find and listen to any information we want, anytime I want.
The magic of the internet.
Yeah. I was on a little vacation, a month or two ago, walking down the beach in Florida. It was beautiful, listening to any podcast I wanted to.
Wow.
Wasn't
What is
too
that?
long
Is that
ago.
like your ultimate, like being on the beach and
Yes.
then absorbing information at the same
Yes.
time? Really?
Yes.
That's it?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I go back and forth. Like, I will take my headphones out and just try to be present, but then I love absorbing a good audiobook. It's like reading and sitting on the beach to me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't listened to prior podcasts, just shortly, we've actually unpacked Bob's life. And so if you want to get to know Bob more, go back and listen to that
We
podcast.
unpacked your life as well, and Ken's.
My life is boring.
No, it's not.
It's boring.
You're an interesting human being.
Oh, thank you.
We pulled some nuggets out of that one.
Now, you smirked when you said interesting. What does that mean?
Oh, me? I didn't even say interesting.
No, Bob did.
Okay.
You are very interesting.
All right.
You're very interesting.
Yeah.
You're the mad scientist,
The mad scientist.
and you're very
Give me-
creative too.
Oh, really? All right. Your check's in the mail.
There you go. So today we were talking before we started, and I've been thinking about this a lot in the last month, working on some other stuff. But there's a lot of buzz on the internet about online privacy. Facebook and Google and Apple, they're all kind of duking it out, and there seems to be a faction in the world that's kind of tired of what's going on the internet, and there's a lot of validity to it, meaning, we don't know where our data sits half the time. You have to have a law degree to read the privacy policies that are 10 pages long on websites and all that stuff. So not covering any new ground here, but one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is this concept of it's our right to privacy, and it's our human right to be private online. And while I think that statement has, again, some validity to it, I think we need to expand the conversation, and I want to unpack this with you guys today, is online privacy the same as offline privacy? I will argue on the side that it's not. Actually, I will argue that what most people are trying to fight for is a superpower that doesn't exist, meaning invisibility, right? Mm-hmm. What we're asking for
Complete
is
anonymity.
Anonymity. I want to be anonymous. I don't want anyone to know who I am, and I want to be invisible online, and that's my right. And I would argue that's not a human right. That is something that's can only exist in the virtual world.
Ooh,
right?
I want to hear your argument.
Yeah. Well, my argument is pretty simple. Is if we're going to engage and function with other human beings, i.e. online or offline, what people are wanting and screaming for many times is I have the fundamental human right that's universal to go to a grocery store, to buy what I want, to go rummage around in the back room if I choose to engage with other human beings there, to use my card, debit card, credit card. But you are not allowed to film me. You're not allowed to look at me. You're not allowed to see my face. You're not allowed to know who I am. And when I check out, you will get, you're not allowed to have any information on who I am, keep records of my receipts, anything like that. Right? Mm-hmm. That would be silly. It doesn't exist. And by virtue of, if I go out in public and I do those things, then I give up certain rights and freedoms in order to enjoy that luxury and that benefit that I get. And what I'm asking for online is the same thing. I want to be totally anonymous. And I'm not saying that you can't have that, and you can if you choose to.
So why do you think that? Do you think it's more Americans that have this philosophical deep charge that the government, the world doesn't need to know who I am because they don't need to be meddling in my stuff? Do you think that's the case, or do you think, because we have a team in Romania that does a lot of technology, or a technology partner that does a lot of our technology. We've been working with them for 12 years or longer. And I talked to them, and they just assume that all, especially ones who are a little older, like in their 50s, when they're used to, when they grew up, 1 out of 5 of their friends, their parents' friends, were informants to the government.
Right.
So they're like, I'm already assuming all my data is already gone out there. And they don't seem to have as much concern about their privacy because they're so used to being infringed upon in that area. But us as Americans, I think that's part of our fundamental God-given right. That we believe that's the case. Now, for me, I think I look at it as, yes, I do want privacy. That's something that I think we all want. And as, digital currencies the Chinese just launched a new digital currency. They'll know every single charge of everyone in the world, in their country, of what's going on, what they're buying, who they're interacting with, everything when it comes to commerce. And so there's more and more data that's being aggregated and collected on somebody.
In the real world, that happens right now.
But
with
we
you
do that
as Americans.
Visa, right? When we go and we go to the coffee shop and we put our code in to get points, that is our data being given to them through Square. And you'll get an email and you'll get points and you get your free coffee, but at the same time they're getting your information and they're using that to market back to you again.
But take it a step further, just using any type of digital payment system in this world, that data exists. So to say, well, China's awful for doing that.
Yeah.
Like we've been doing that for 50 years, 100 years, or however long credit cards have been around.
Yeah. And we understand that in America. I mean, if you don't pay your taxes, guess what the government will do? They'll literally
take it out of your account.
Take it out of your bank account.
They're just not as forthcoming with it.
Yeah. It'll just disappear. It'll just disappear.
Same thing. I think probably we need to talk about and define what do we mean by privacy? Because I think what people get confused on, and you're saying, Bob, why are you splitting hairs? Because I think it's important, because data security and ownership is one thing, and that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about data security. We're not talking about privacy,
and maybe not overreaching.
Yeah,
maybe I'll say overreaching without an awareness,
right?
Because there's a lot of snuck in, overreaching into someone's personal life, in the fine print and all. They don't realize it. I think that's maybe one area, but overreaching in that
I think
place.
we can define, I can define privacy. I'd love to hear your guys' definition of privacy as simply, if we boil it down, is to be left alone. Like, don't bother me. Don't invade my personal space.
You gotta stop signing up for free crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you're talking about
come in my house.
Define internet privacy?
No. I'm just talking about privacy.
Just general privacy.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think that we're naive that we sign up for stuff? We're used to getting free on the internet. Let's face it. Everything that we sign up, half the stuff that I use on the internet that is valuable in my life is free. Now, I don't get that for free, right? I have to give away something for that. When I get when I get the opt-in things, they're 5 pages long.
Right.
I don't read those. I don't think anybody reads those. I would sit there for a half hour and have to read a 2-point text on the screen. I can't even read it with all the disclaimers. Nobody reads it. And so is it our fault that we're naive enough to, or careless enough to do that? Is it our fault that we're giving away our free information?
I think ultimately it is our fault.
I think everything is a freedom of choice of what you do. But I also think too is we need to really think through what are the rules of engagement. If you think of it like a game, let's go back to the grocery store example. What's the rules of the game there? Like I have the freedom to drive there, walk inside, and purchase food. Okay, that's my freedom, right? What my privacy in that situation is, I don't want someone looking over my shoulder, judging me, taking notes on like what I'm eating, what I choose to buy, what I'm listening to on my iPods at that time. That's in some ways that's privacy inside of that location. someone's not going to rummage through my wallet while I'm there. Now, the other side of the coin is the grocery store has rights and privacy as well. And so the rules of the game is I'm going to go there and purchase stuff from them. And in exchange, they're going to protect themselves by saying, we're not going to put your food on credit. You're going to pay me with cash or a debit card or a credit card that is good. And if not, you don't get this food. I'm going to keep a record of the receipt of so that if you return something, we can have that fair exchange and it benefits both of us. I'm going to keep financial records of what was sold so I can inventory. That's the rules of the game that we engage in. And I think we need to be better. We need to think harder and better about, as agency owners, as marketers, but I think as citizens, about what are the rules of the game when I go online, when I use an app and things like that. And I think the controversy in the gray area is, do we know what those rules are?
I was gonna say that I think it does come down, at least in the internet world, to that. It's just stuff's been snuck in, behind the scenes, and now we're having this pendulum swing against it. Mm-hmm. I was, as you're talking, I'm thinking, in the real world, the reason why I believe, some of these things are governmental, or societal, we have certain rights. Mm-hmm. Some of these things are the way we're made as human beings, right? I mean, even to the point of physically, like, you can't disappear.
Right.
Like, I can see you.
Right.
And so I asked myself, well, why is that? And, what's interesting about when you kind of make the alignment with in real life, you've got, the balance. So if, you have a balance and some tension there. So, like, for instance, like, I can't walk down Main Street over here, and if I was invisible and no one knew who I was a number, and no one even knew who I was in real time. They could only see me after the fact. But they didn't know my name. They didn't know anything else about me. I could do a whole lot of bad stuff.
Because you are bad.
Bad to the bone. You could do a whole lot of stuff. And there wouldn't be that balance, because people knowing who I am, my identity being mm-hmm. attached physically to something, keeps us in check in some way. I think that is somewhat a God ordained balance or something. Yes. There's something there about, like, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna maybe do something to you that I wouldn't do anything to you if I was invisible anyway. But my point is there's a balance between, like, I can see you, I know who you are, and so, like,
if I was invisible, there'd probably be some stuff.
There'd be
a
lot more temptation to do it.
Right.
And my point is like, on the internet, that kind of happened. Right? Like, we've got
bingo. We
have the ability to be invisible. We can bully people. We can steal stuff. Stealing meaning, like, pirating and all that kind of, like, not just stealing credit card information, like, all the, like, I'm just gonna, like, swipe this little thing over here off of what's the not Napster, one of those things,
like,
whatever.
steal music and media.
But my point is, like, there's all this stuff you can do. You can, like, look at things that you wouldn't look at if, like, you were standing in the broad daylight in front of people, right?
That's right.
And that's unhealthy. And I think what's interesting, I hadn't thought about it that way before, but as we're talking through this, it's like, maybe I think complete anonymity is not a good thing. Maybe someone knowing that it's Bob Hutchins on the other side of that computer screen will keep Bob Hutchins from doing something bad. Yeah,
you're getting to the point that I'm making in all of this. And, like,
Bob Hutchins would never do something bad.
Well, you guys got to go back and listen to Bob Hutchins'
well, my point is
profile.
Is that what you're hitting on it, Ken, is the reason that I think it's important is because it makes us more human online, right? And it makes for a better environment. And there's a term called online disinhibition effect. And all that means is, it's a psychological term that means when I go online, I become a different person. Mm. And we've seen that in the past.
What's that called?
Online disinhibition effect. And so let's say, like, when I go online, I'm inhibited.
So would that be everyone on Reddit?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, don't.
Yeah. To your example, your inhibition for that keeps you in check is, you don't go up to someone, look at them in the face and just, call them a jerk randomly because you don't like what they're wearing or what flag or candidate they have, bumper sticker they have on their car. I mean, some people do that, but most people don't.
We saw that a lot last year. And I mean, but that last year was just another example, I just think more exaggerated, more mainstream internet example. I joke about Reddit, but I just mean every forum ever, if anyone's ever been on there, this idea of what I'm not going to even try and say the word that you just
online
said.
disinhibition effect.
Yeah. That's clearly at work in those situations.
Do you think that that privacy is different for different generations? Like, do you think, for instance, our generation, there's something that we fight more for privacy, where younger folks maybe are just more used to it, and it's just part of the deal. And do you think that, especially maybe us as Americans, that we're maybe a little two-faced in that area? For instance, we say we want privacy, at the same time, we don't mind posting every picture of every moment that we're doing.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, wait a second here. You say you want privacy, but at the same time, I could go and look at your Instagram feed and I literally know where you are right now, what vacation you're on. Well, I know your home is empty right now because you're in Florida on the beach. Taking information.
I would imagine criminals have not an easier time of life than right now with that kind of thing. Because and I mean, do you guys post in real time with that kind of stuff ever?
I don't
Sometimes.
post.
I do.
I don't post in real time just because it's just not my personality.
Yeah, personally, I don't either. But
if I'm on the beach and I'm out of town, I might post it. I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
then you text me and you say, "Watch my house."
Well, it's locked up, and I'm not really concerned. But I can see. But you have to be smart about it. Don't be stupid.
For the longest time, when I traveled on business, I've wife and young kids, and anytime I traveled on business, I would take if I wanted, because sometimes I'm not really like a social, like my personality is not really geared towards sharing everything, but from a professional standpoint, I do it. And so, but I'll document my stuff, and then I'd never post until I'm back.
Oh,
it's like
I caught myself. I was at a place this past week that I'm like, you know what? I'm such an arrogant person. I'm going to post this so that I can pat myself on the back. So I'm going to pat myself on the back now. But you see where I was this week?
Oh, man.
I'm showing everyone the picture.
Is that the game they lost? Or the game
they won? This is Predators versus Florida. They lost.
It looks like there's a lot of people
I was literally on the glass.
That's amazing.
I'm going to be at the Saturday game.
So, but funny thing is,
how about that?
Really?
I'm going to be at the Saturday game.
That's where I wanted to go to. I couldn't get tickets.
Get out of here.
No, they're playing in Dallas. How much?
Just kidding. They're priceless.
So anyways,
hopefully if they win. If not, then they're.
But the message to this is that as I get older, I get less and less. I care less and less about people posting what I'm doing in life. And I think sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, you know what? I kind of do it just to kind of. It's really bragging, in some ways. Not all the ways. Some people really like it.
But feeds the ego, right?
Well, but I understand that I had somebody that is a major social media person, post every second. And he's like, people, they do like that. Like they like to see your life. They want to connect with you. And he's kind of a personality as well. So, we do that, right? We sit and follow people that we like and we enjoy that at some level. You feel connected to that person. But at the same time, a lot of it could be, you're just bragging. But the question, the thing is, the two-faced thing is like, how do we, it's almost like we don't really want privacy. We just want full control. Right? We just want full control. We want to give as much information as we want, and we don't want anybody to get more than what we want to share.
Right. Privacy, I think, online means you don't want someone hacking into your account and taking your stuff. In other words, that's the opposite of being left alone, right? Like, leave me alone. This is my stuff. Go do your thing, and everyone will be happy. The opposite is breaking into my house virtually online and stealing my data and all that information. That's privacy, right? Where I go, what I look at, what I see, my financial information that I use at a store, all that's not privacy. That's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
You don't get to be anonymous unless you go to the extreme of anonymizing yourself. And that is, there's some people that have a lot of concerns about that. And We could probably debate it all day long, but I think it's important to not get to the point where we become a society of anonymous, invisible people online, because it will not produce good things in the end. That's my opinion.
I'd like to kind of unpack a little deeper into this privacy thing and talk about the why we feel it. So, for instance, if you talk to some people about privacy, the number one fear of privacy, of not having privacy, is that somehow Big Brother, or the government, there's bad people out there that are not just thieves. They're literally controlling our world, our government, central banks, whatever, right? Other nefarious folks that want to literally control us as a population. And a lot of that fear comes out of that just philosophy that exists. Now, does that come from history? Does that come from Nazi Germany? Does that come from China? What does that come from? And there's a fear of that in our country right now, I think.
Always has been.
It always has been, right? You talk about McCarthyism. You talk about all these things that we've seen over our history. Or is it the fear of somebody finding that information and stealing something from you? A personal theft, you know what I mean? Like a hacker or something. Like, where's that fear? I believe, and again, I'm always wrong. So, but I believe that there's actually a greater fear of the first, of that our world is getting to the point where there's going to rise up more of a centralized control. And the more information they have on us, the more control, AI and other things, that we literally will lose our God-given rights. Especially as Americans, we believe we have God-given rights, and we're losing those rights right now. That's the feeling, and privacy is part of that. That's the plan. And there's a plan out there that some organization, some institution, it could be the U.S. government, it could be bigger than that, has a plan to ruin your life and ruin our kids' life and our future of our world.
Brad.
I know that sounds...
Brad threw us off the cliff into philosophy and
but
psychology
the reality
and
is,
evolutionary biology.
Yes, but the reality is, I think that's...
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at the fear. You got to look at the pain points, not just the surface pain points, but deeper pain points. And there's that narrative that's out there, and I don't believe in it 100%.
It's not unfounded, though. I mean,
it's history. It does repeat itself.
Yeah. I mean, through history, like, populations are controlled and through those methods, even if it's not technology that's done that.
I mean, do you believe, just being transparent here, do you believe that, moving to this digital currency that the Chinese are doing, and we're going to do that soon here too, you're not going to be, in 5 years, I don't think you're going to be using, dollars and quarters and cents. I mean,
or at least the chips on your debit card. I think that's such old technology.
Yeah. So the question is do you believe that China is going to use their data against their...
They already are. There's already a credit score system.
Right? And it's going to get worse. Now, is the fear, is that coming to America? Is that coming?
It's already here. I mean, I think we're so naive. We have this us versus them mentality that we're always the hero. And I can't speak for other countries, but I'm sure it's the same thing. We're always the good guys and everyone else is the bad guy. And sometimes, and I take it down to the personal level of my own life, if you can see yourself as the bad guy sometimes, and I'm not talking about self-hatred or any of that, I'm just talking about, like, flip the script and try to see things from someone else's perspective. So certainly I'm secure, I'm private, the government, America has my best interest at heart. And while that might be mostly true, of course there are people here, and of course we give up information, and of course we're being monitored, and of course you're on every video camera that you walk by. The show Person of Interest, there's a level of truth to that, where he could get on a computer and connect to every camera in the country and follow your every single move. I think there's some truth to that. Now,
there was a reality TV show where they did that. It was a contest. Have you ever seen that? It was so interesting. No. I believe Tim Kennedy, who I think is awesome, was on that. But it was this idea where you're a fugitive. It might have even been called that, but you're a fugitive. You get like 12 hours to start your escape. and this team of like top FBI, like ex CIA people hunt you, and if they don't catch you within a certain period of time, I think like 1 week or something like that, you get like $1 million. It was a contest. It was like a reality show. It was so cool. But what was interesting is there's technology that I didn't even know about. And now it may sound dumb because maybe everyone knows about this, but you're driving down the highway and your license plate's getting recorded through cameras automatically.
Yep.
So they're just going on. They're like, oh, they drove down this highway. All kinds of facial recognition and those kind of things. It's a really cool show, but it shows you some of that technology on display. And I think that I don't believe that there's a single person that's, maybe there is, but like that's like got this grand scheme. But I do think that in general, too much power and power unchecked, kind of turns sideways. And I think,
but it gets back to this anonymity thing, right? It's the same.
Well, I think
it's the same thing.
I think it goes both ways.
That's what I'm saying.
But I do think on the side of like, giving governments tons of access to our very personal micro movement data, I do think doesn't lead to a good place.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem with countries like China, North Korea, or others. It's like we know what's going on, right? But there is this false narrative that everything is great and, there's nothing going on, and to the rest of the world, everyone's happy, but there's not a transparency there, right? There's not a human-to-human engagement and face. As a matter of fact, in North Korea, we don't even know what's going on. We can't see, and he keeps everything hidden and truly invisible from the rest of the world and from the citizens there. So they don't. So that's you create something that's false, that's destructive, that only benefits the person at the top. And that's kind of where I'm going with all of this is we have to be careful when we say we want privacy online, when we really meaning complete anonymity, which ultimately leads to an environment that I would argue is not healthy at all. I don't want to engage with people that I don't know who they are, where they are, what kind of people they are. Yeah. In the same way, I wouldn't do that in the real world. Like I wouldn't get close to and have an engagement with someone that I can't see, that's invisible, that, what are they doing right now?
I just think it's power left unchecked again, like in that way.
Right.
If I can do everything and no one knows who I am, then, there's a lot of temptation, and I think the world gets into a really weird place, and that's where the internet world has gotten to that weird place.
Yeah.
And I can still have data security, and I can still have my financial information secure, and I can make choices and ownership over that. They don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Get both. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge is the last 10 years in our industry, we've been using that data, and we've gotten used to having more and more data. I mean, the last 5 years, we talked about this in the past, just in the Facebook world, Instagram world of doing advertising, we've got less and less data now. It's been stripped away. We were given it all at one time, and then all of a sudden now they pulled it away, and we can't see as much about the folks that we're marketing to.
But to get to your point, I do think there is something about us as humans that we navigate toward many times. Like there is someone behind the curtain pulling these strings. And I think that served us well as human beings at one time to keep us sharp, i.e., hey, there might be a bear behind that. So I'm going to live cautiously with my eyes open. There might be another tribe that's hiding behind, ready to attack us because they've done it before. So I'm going to be careful and look twice before I eat this piece of whatever because it might be poisoned or whatever. I think that can serve you well, but I think it can be very unhealthy in environments like we were talking about. I think the better angels of ourselves will say, I opt to believe the best about people. And it's a crazy time we live in, for sure.
Yeah. Let me unpack a little bit of what privacy looks like in Bob's world. Like what would you give and take? And what would that look like? How would you be able to control your own privacy so that you can give away as much as you want? And then maybe some quick little tips of things that you might do right now that you even do that you just kind of are aware of that you don't give too much information or not enough, or maybe it's using a VPN or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think Ken might agree with me on this one, but I opt toward common sense, and I think that serves us well. Don't do online anything that you wouldn't do in the real world. So start there. Secondly, if you've had your identity stolen, I have, and I've had money stolen. I got it back, most of it, but that feeling is horrible. I think that is the ultimate invasion of privacy, meaning someone breaks in and takes what's not theirs. And so what I learned from that is the way that happens most times is a merging of the offline world in the real world, meaning like shred your bank accounts if you have paper. Don't throw your mail away without ripping it up. Be careful to not send that stuff via email. Don't send credit card information that someone could just print it out and use it. Just use common sense. To me, that's the smartest thing you can do. And then I think make sure you understand what you're doing and who you're giving your information to online. Love them or hate them. Apple, Amazon, these others have created a world where we can feel fairly secure. Now, what they do with that data, that's a whole nother story. But at least I know that if I buy my stuff from Amazon, I've had a good experience. I know my information's secure, and I don't have to go to 25 different stores online to buy things. I can try to boil it down to 2 or 3 places. Same with Apple. So that's what it looks like for me. I don't just go give my credit card information to every Shopify store that pops up, especially if they have some kind of foreign address or connection, things like that.
I've been an Apple fanboy, so maybe my lens is a little skewed, but I've always felt like Apple has, even the last 10 years, have done a good job at really talking about privacy, encryption, especially like in iMessage, they were really early on about encryption that the people that work at Apple can't even get access to your messages back and forth, whatever. But they've done some stuff that they kind of showing that they do believe in it, like the whole idea where you can sign up for stuff now, and instead of using your email, Apple generates a unique email specifically just for that. So they really don't have your real email. And so they're doing some things that I think that at least are kind of the proof in the pudding. They're at least being proactive about it. I don't know if other companies are doing that. I know, I was just listening to Facebook's earnings this past quarter, and they had a pretty good quarter actually, and their numbers were pretty high as new users and everything.
Yeah, they're going to podcasting too, so you might be able to hear us on Facebook before long.
Boom! But the question is what's all of their revenue is made from ads. I mean, if you look at their revenue, which is made from data, and it will be interesting to see with we'll talk about this on another podcast, but the iOS updates and stuff that are restricting that. It'd be interesting to see what their numbers look like in about a year from now because of that. And I know that they might struggle, but they're smart, and hopefully they start looking at some other ways to create revenue, which I think is really healthy for them anyways, because they base their whole business around advertising. They have That's tough.
Yeah, going back to I'm sorry, did you have a point?
No.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to your point of the asking the question about paranoia. I would just kind of wrap up with this, and I'm sure there's a lot of different things we could talk about, but if you are that personality or that person that tends to believe that there is like a conspiracy, that like there's some greater bad person behind the counter, if it's the government, if it's an organization, I would just say, ask yourself this question: who benefits from you believing that? You can always trace it back and go, who benefits from you believing that? Do you benefit? Because you probably don't. It probably makes your life miserable, hard. It breaks relationships. Who's benefiting? And if you can really be honest with yourself and say, oh, I'm not benefiting from this. Because usually the person that's pushing that narrative is benefiting in some way. And I think that's one way to look at it is, why do I want to be anonymous, and why am I pushing this thing? Who's benefiting from it? And that's hard to unwrap in our lives. And I've been guilty of going down that rabbit hole too, but I think there's another way to look at it. So,
I mean, I think that, this idea of defining privacy and questioning the idea that are we really looking for privacy, but is it more something else? We're really looking for complete anonymity. I think one of the challenges with this term is there's no golden rule. Like there's no objective privacy truth, right? And so really it's, how do we learn from our history and make sure that doesn't happen again? As a population, we're scared that happens again. Maybe as a government, they're scared that it goes the other way. I don't know, because there is a struggle of power, or even as, or as companies, private companies and those kind of things, is a struggle of power. But I do think that tension is important. I think the tension not
absolutely
unchecked either way is bad. But man, sometimes what we want, like complete anonymity, is not always the best thing for us.
No, it's not.
And we talked about that. And so like in the online world, what we need is to be protected in a reasonable way and be aware of what we're giving up when we are giving it up.
You guys ever watch these?
People aren't stealing stuff, and people are not accident. I'm not giving my social security number to someone who I think is a bank who's not a bank. Like those kind of things, I think are important. But complete anonymity, I don't think.
Have you guys ever watched these shows? I was watching one the other night where these people go off the grid and they're up in like the woods of Alaska, and it's fascinating to watch.
Love that show.
That looks horrible. I mean, they're like, "Oh, this is great," and the kids under a blanket next to a fire, shuddering in a corner, and the mom's like hauling water up the hill. Oh yeah, this is great. We're gonna get snow and thaw it and drink water. And it looks miserable. And for some people, I guess that's
I was going to say, it's
thing,
all your perspective, right?
But that's complete anonymity, right?
Well, it's trying to be.
Well, it's trying to be, but now they're all over the world on television.
They're on reality TV.
But if you want that, that's what it leads to, and that's what it is. It's like you give up all conveniences, and
you still can't get that, right? Like you still have a name, you still have a social security number with the government. Like you can't get complete anonymity,
right?
And that keeps, and that's a good balance. Even with that, you can't get complete anonymity. You may be off the grid. You may be more self-dependent,
right?
And
that's different, I think.
It is, and maybe it gets confused. But it's not anonymous, and it's almost like we're fighting for something that isn't so ideal and impossible that I don't think we'll ever end that fight. If
I would argue
we're trying
it's not
to get to
very
anonymity.
healthy. There's nothing in our human species for thousands of years that would say that is a healthy way to live for long periods of time.
I grew up on Grizzly Adams, and so that sounds really delightful.
I know
having a bear as a friend.
Remember the Wilderness Family and all that?
I don't know.
Yeah, have you seen these
My Side of the Mountain
communities that they go off the grid? Yeah. They don't usually end very well. I mean, I'm just saying.
Usually cults.
You try to get away from You try to get away from it and say we're not participating in society. We don't know.
I mean, maybe they're on a spaceship somewhere.
It ends in cannibalism.
Hey, and on that note.
All right. Well, this has been a great discussion. Man, we could go on forever about this. I know it's going to be
nowhere.
Man, even this year we're gonna see a lot of change and things and discussion about this. So it's going to be an interesting ride. But maybe we'll talk about it in another year or so. See where we are with this. And
I think if nothing else, hopefully question what privacy actually is.
Yeah.
If it's really what you think it is.
Good discussion, guys.
Yeah. All right.
Until next time.
Yeah. Oh, jinx.
Bye.